Thank you, William. I'm glad to be here.
Who is RJ Link?
So, RJ Link was founded a little over 25 years ago. It's a privately held manufacturer, and what we do is we manufacture gearbox and gearbox solutions for the customers that you just can't find a commodity fit for. And so we cross several different markets, whether it's oil and gas, the ag, construction, specialty vehicles. Where there's a need for power transmission and you need an interface from whether it's a diesel engine or an electric motor, and you need to transmit power and torque and change its ratio, that's where an industrial gearbox comes into play. So RJ Link designs and builds and manufactures those types of solutions for the customers that need that little extra to solve whatever challenge they're faced with in their application. So we'll use the term custom a lot, but we'll do a lot of modified standards just to give it the fit that the customer is looking for. So whether it's a modified standard or a complete developed gearbox that the customer is looking for that they just can't find on the market, RJ Link International has been positioned to design and build those industrial gearboxes.
Okay, so I understand from the industry's perspective, I would assume it's big things. So just to help me and the listeners, beyond the industry, if you could give me an example of real companies, what type of companies, like a tractor company, what type of companies needs RJ Link or would work with RJ Link?
So integrators that do anything in like the oil and gas market, especially for fracking or even well maintenance, there's oftentimes a large industrial gearbox that's used. So these companies will have a large generating engine like a big Class 8 diesel engine or larger, and they'll need a gearbox to interface to a blender system, a centrifugal pump, or a other fracking type equipment that they need to transmit the engine power into rotary power that their device needs. So these are typically, to give you kind of a scale, these are gearboxes that sometimes weigh 500 to 1,000 pounds. But we also manufacture gearboxes that go on to the front end of large semi-truck sized snow blowers. And so, used at an airport runway and sweeping systems that clean an airport runway, where you need a large industrial gearbox to drive the augers on the snowblower. So we're in ag, like I said, construction, custom vehicles, and anybody that's looking to transmit horsepower and change its ratio, and that's what a speed increaser or speed decreaser does. They're looking at utilizing a gearbox, whether it's a transfer case or just a speed increaser, speed reducer.
Okay, great. Now, and I understand you guys have been doing this for 25 years. So can you talk a little bit more about the history of RJ Link, from how you guys began to where you are today, and where do you see your future going relative to both technology as well as your business?
So the background history is Rod Link and his wife Ann purchased a product line from a local company in the Rockford area called Valley Drive Systems. And that's kind of got them started in building industrial gearboxes. That's what started the business. And over the years, they just kind of built on being that niche market supplier that would work with the customers, whether it's an end user or an OEM manufacturer or an integrator, to build a power transmission solution. So over a number of years, Rod has stepped into more an executive role on our board of directors, and he's brought in a team now that is, driving the company with all of the new market interfaces that we see today, whether it's Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, doesn't matter, the social platform. Because the market has changed out in this, in the sense of, and I'll use the term millennials, you can reach so many more people now so quickly just through their phones. And so we're our marketing strategy has always been based upon kind of that direct rifle shot to users and customers and markets that can utilize an RJ Link gearbox. So the future challenge that started your question for RJ Link is brand recognition always, and getting to the right user, engineer, integrator that we can assist in solving their problems. So we do a lot with LinkedIn, where we're always posting application stories, and we get a lot of inquiries from that. And so we have rjlink.com as our primary website, and you can go out there and see our capabilities. But our forte has been really to provide a engineered gearbox solution for whatever the customer's needs are.
Okay, so that kind of takes me to my next question then. So when we talk about brand recognition, I mean, I think it's safe to say that RJ Link is known for being easy to work with and providing custom solutions. So what would you say then, maybe a customer from oil and gas, or somebody from ag, or somebody from construction, what are they going to see as, the advantage or the value in working with RJ Link based on your brand that I believe to be, ease of working together and custom?
So, the first part of it is any interaction with the customer, we do a lot of listening to really understand what their application is. And, if we're a fit for them, because oftentimes, we can point them in a direction where they can just buy a commodity gearbox and we may not get the sale that they contacted us on, but the next opportunity, they'll remember that we helped them, and they say, hey, now I've got something that needs to be a little special. It needs to be custom or a modified standard. And they'll say, hey, I really liked what we did on the last project. You were very helpful. You had great engineering expertise. And I call it building on a successful failure. We didn't get the first sale, but we got the second one. And so they'll call in, talk to myself or our engineering managers, and they'll go through, what they need in their application. And we'll ask them questions that, they may not have thought of, because oftentimes today the engineer we're dealing with is a system integrator, and he may not be a transmission expert. And so he may understand how to get the engine connected to the gearbox, but he doesn't understand the nuances of the gearbox or the detail or the minutia of the application, where we can help them cover some additional bases and be their centers of expertise. And so we'll work with them to do the one-offs.
Okay. So when we talk about one-offs or customs, can you maybe give me some examples of what a custom would be? Like, for example, something as simple as a label. I mean, can you give a couple examples of, something being custom or, non-standard relative to a gearbox?
So a lot of times, space is a key element in the design of any vehicle or system. And so we'll use the term power density in the industry, where they need something that's going to be a speed increaser or speed reducer, and they've got a very small area to put a gearbox in. And I'll give you an example. We have a customer that they actually drive our gearbox that we designed for them with a fluid hydraulic motor. But they need to reduce the speed from like a 5-to-1 ratio. So the input is about 4,000 RPMs, and the output will be 5,000 divided by 4. Or I'm sorry, 4,000 divided by 5. And so it'll reduce the speed, but maintain the high torque that they're looking for. But it's a pancake design within about a 6-inch width space. And so, that gearbox doesn't just sit on the shelf for somebody to go buy from a catalog house like Granger or McMaster Carr or somebody. That has to be designed to fit. And so we'll get regular production orders for that kind of a gearbox because, they may need only 10 a month or 5 a month. And, that's kind of been our forte, is to provide that engineered solution for them to fit within the work environment. So that's an example of some of the capabilities that RJ Link will do, is we'll design to fit.
Okay, great. Now I have heard, prior to you being a guest on the show, heard some very positive things about you guys are very, very easy to work with. So can you maybe just, from a 30,000 foot level, kind of just give me a simple outline of how that process works? Like if I come to you with a sketch on a napkin, how does the process go, me as a customer working with RJ Link for something that would be custom?
Sure. So, and we get phone calls from end users where it's exactly what you just described, William. It's a sketch on a napkin. And they have a PTO on a tractor, and they want to connect a gearbox to it to change the ratio or the speed that they're getting, and they want to connect it to a pump or some other, ag device, doesn't matter what. And so we'll go through saying, okay, how much space do you have? And we'll start asking questions, what are you looking to do? And they'll say, I got 1,000 PTO tractor, but I need to run the pump at 3,000 RPM. Well, that's a 1 to 3 speed increasing ratio. And I said, well, do you have a space constraint? No, I can mount it right here on the end of the tractor. And so we'll start going through those technical details of how much horsepower are they putting into the tractor. How do they want to connect to it? Do they want a direct coupling, or do they want PTO quick change? And we'll start walking them through the process, even though they may not have had, an engineering background of designing that kind of a system. With an OEM where you're working with an engineer, they'll fill out an application data sheet, and they'll be very specific about, here's point A, and I need to go to a point B, and I need a 20-inch offset, and I need a 7-to-1 reduction, and I need to be able to do it at 700 horsepower. And they'll give us great engineering specs. We'll go through it saying, yep, this is exactly what you need. Here's how we'll do it. Here's the frame size, and they'll say, yep, got it. And so we'll run the gambit of the customer interface being from almost no technical interface, but good mechanical interface with the end user, to working with the design engineer that's got, basically all the design parameters laid out. We just have to meet them.
Okay. All right, well, then obviously you guys have been doing something right. 25 years in business, you guys are growing year over year. So with, your specialty of doing custom gearbox solutions, for more than 25 years, one of the questions I always ask all my guests are, what are some of the challenges you face as a manufacturer, specifically, with gearboxes then? And, and then you look at your competitive landscape, and then just day-to-day operation, whether it's, dealing with your raw material suppliers, et cetera. So what are some of the challenges that you face within your role at RJ Link?
So part of it is what I'll call public education, is educating the customer base that we're not the commodity off-the-shelf manufacturer. We don't stock. We build to order. We build to fit. And if we're the right fit, we will work hard to win the customer's business and their confidence. But if we don't think we're the right fit, and they just want a plug and chug commodity type gearbox solution, we will help them find the right supplier. And I think RJ Link over the years has done a very good job of, we'll tell them which competitor to go to, because they may have a better solution than us. I don't want to push RJ Link's position and then develop a bad relationship with the customer. I'd rather the customer walk away saying, yeah, I'm not going to order it from RJ Link, but you know what, I really liked working with them. And so, one of the challenges is to educate the customer base that we're not the commodity guy, and then, educate them on our capabilities and the ranges, and then that brand recognition. So that's on the business interface side. The challenges on the company side are always, how do you align, your business to always support your customer markets? And I'm a lean manufacturing tech head. I believe in those principles and Lean and Six Sigma, and I've always found that if you communicate and effectively implement a business strategy to align to the customers and the markets, it makes it easy to sell your product, because you're going to be aligned to what the markets need and what they want. And in many cases, we have to be more of an expert on the applications than the people that we're talking to. because through the years, a lot of that expertise and a lot of large OEMs has been lost through attrition. So we need to have, that engineering expertise that aligns to solving the customer's problems. We need to have that supply chain base that's aligned to be modular, dynamic, short lead times, within a range that can support what the customer's expectations are for delivery. And then also, I think a big aspect of it is how to develop a flexible system, because I've seen it with large corporations and I've seen it with small companies. Oftentimes we make the process more important than the product, where we become so constrained in the step 1 through step 8 process that we lose sight of what we're trying to service to the customer. And I think if you align it appropriately, the success that you will gain is actually quite easy to achieve. It's a lot of hard work, but once you have the right business strategy in place, and that's part of my role, is how do you align, like I mentioned earlier in my bio, quoting to the customers. Customers don't want to wait 3 weeks for us to engineer and develop a quote. They want a budgetary answer as quickly as possible, and you want to be able to work with them and still give them high confidence that you haven't overshot or undershot what price you've given them. And that you've addressed the technical details to enough degree that they say, okay, yep, I got it. All right, now let's take it to the next step and we'll refine the quote a little bit more and get into some more technical detail. But they have a good comfort feel that we're in the range that they're looking for.
Okay. Hey, now one question that just it slipped my mind because I was getting so excited learning about how you guys do custom solutions. Are you guys coast to coast in North America? Where all do you guys sell to? I want to make sure I ask you that.
So the primary market is North America. We do sell overseas, and a lot of our customers will export our product that it goes into overseas. So if we sell to a domestic customer and they're the integrator or the OEM, that unit could be shipped overseas anywhere in the world, especially when you're talking like ag or oil and gas.
Sure.
So I've talked to customers that have our gearbox on a front end of a snowblower in Antarctica and Upper Alaska. And it's exciting, for me anyway, when I start talking to them, because the gearbox that they're looking for service parts on was built in 1994. And so they're like, do you still carry parts for this? I said, we have all the designs, we have the serialized history of every gearbox we've ever made. We can make you the parts that you need and get you back up and running.
All right, so this timing is good then to ask that question based on, covering all of North America, the fact that you're in oil and gas, the fact that you're in ag, the fact that you're in construction, the fact that you're in environments of, nice sunny weather, and then, as you said, Antarctica, cold. So the gearbox is going to see everything. Now, for you, as of today and the future, where do you see the future going, in manufacturing specific to RJ Link? And what are you seeing in terms of, industry trends, call it, new emerging technologies, whether it's, Bluetooth or, some kind of communication systems for the gearboxes? What are you seeing in terms of, future development and, what's going to be the gearbox of the future versus today? And we can go 10, 20 years out. Just what do you see the vision, both short-term and long-term, for RJ Link and relative to what you guys make, which are the gearboxes?
So what's interesting is you hit it all on the head. The term Internet of Things, that kind of integration of new emerging technologies, whether it's sensors that are in the gearbox that you can walk by with your phone and pick up an RFID signal and tell exactly the temperature in the gearbox, or the vibration analysis of the bearings, and you can get to predictive analysis of when the gearbox will fail. All of that exists. And I think in the future you're going to see gearboxes that have the interface to be self-diagnosing, that they'll pre-warn the user or the system that, oh, my bearing is starting to wear out. You know, you need to take a look at this. Or my oil's getting too dirty. Just like in your car, you get an oil light signal that says, hey, change my oil.
Okay.
And I think you're also going to see, you know, because there's so much discussion on electrification. You know, you can't throw a stick on the internet and not find somebody that's building an electric bus, an electric car. They're building, you know, what we'll call a gear motor combination. And when you think in terms of gear motor, think of it as you take the gearbox and you just directly couple it right to the electric motor. But you design it in such a way that, again, the key is power density. You're going to shorten up that unit as much as possible. And so we have customers today that are doing that very thing. They're just mounting the electric motor directly into the gearbox. And so the gearbox is receiving the shaft right from the electric motor. There's no bridge coupling anymore. They're trying to reduce that work volume space that the gearbox is taking up. So again, electrification, there's, you know, the dialogue is always about, you know, can you still get the same power and torque? And I think there's still going to be a very strong market in the future for gearbox technology. It's going to change, but what you're going to see is that, you know, electric motors are efficient at high speeds, and they're not efficient at low speed, high torque. So you always need some type of transmission, whether it's an industrial gearbox or other mechanical device, that's going to help transform that torque that you need, and that's a gearbox. And so I think RJ Link is very well positioned to still support those types of industries. And it's still always going to come down to energy efficiency. If you can build a system that helps reduce consumption costs, whether it's battery life, diesel fuel, doesn't matter. If you can help reduce those operating costs for the user, I mean, that's an advantage.
Okay. So we've talked about 25 years in business, we've talked about success, we've talked about understanding why customers love working with RJ Link. We understand the industries that you serve, the applications that you guys are always continuing to expand and grow as you build your brand. So we know the company, we know your team. So let's talk about you, Terry, Vice President of Business Development. What can you tell the listeners? You know, I get asked all the time when we have guests on the show now, hey, you know, what's it like to be them? Or, you know, Will, next time you have the show, can you know, a day in the life. So, you know, you're the Vice President of Business Development at RJ Link, a gearbox manufacturer. Take the listeners through what it's like to be you, a typical week for the VP of Business Development.
So with RJ Link, what's neat is we all wear many hats. And I get to interface at all levels of the business, whether it's operations, procurement, sales, marketing, you know, accounting, it doesn't matter. The exciting part of this type of a job is you get to present an alignment strategy, and if you think in terms of like you're the coach of a team, you get to develop that playbook, you know, and that strategy to ultimately win. And when we talk about, you know, what we're trying to do, it's all about, you know, how do you continue to grow and maintain profitability and be of value to your customers. So for me, that's the exciting part of the job. And it's hard work. It's oftentimes long hours. You get to talk to some amazing customers and end users. And if you listen closely enough, and there's always something to learn there. And so that's the exciting part. Some of the minutiae and day-to-day stuff, you know, whether it's developing a quote for a service part that a customer is looking for, or, you know, working with a developing project with a customer that wants to make a completely new gearbox for a completely new application. So you run the gambit from very small to very large, and that keeps it energizing.
And I do have a question. So, you know, with you being the VP of Business Development now, you know, a lot of times, as I understand, you know, during, you know, you being on the show, you have end users, right? But then you also have, you know, some of the, you know, big OEMs that say, hey, you know, RJ Link, we want to partner with you. This is our new system or our new design. We want to work with you at
Yeah, absolutely. You know, when we talk about, kind of our strategy, we try to rifle shot it. And we try to target specifically those customers that we think we're a fit for. We try not to do the shotgun blast, but we'll do the email blast out there, for the newsletters and post. But we really try to go after customers that we think we're a good fit for. And then if we can establish that personal connection with them and that direction, that interface. So yes, it's traveling, going face to face, but with the technology of the internet today, so much of it is via email, a lot of conference call, WebEx, communication, video conferencing. So travel becomes less of a main priority, but we still focus on that. We really do want to meet the customers because a lot of times there's a significant amount of value with personal interaction. Terry is not just a mythical voice on a computer or on the phone.
Right.
There really is a person, and they can interface with them. So,
well, I gotta believe too that when people want to work with RJ Link, they want to physically come to your factory, right?
Yeah, and we do that. So we'll go to their site, and like I said, we're all over the country. But yeah, so I think it's kind of a balance between, once you kind of establish that relationship, then a lot of it becomes digital interfacing and really working with the customer. But I'm going to tell a little anecdotal sidebar on that as far as travel and that. We'll get phone calls from customers and end users, and a lot of times they'll relate to me that they were expecting to get my voicemail or to be shuttled through an automated customer service program on the phone system. And then when they actually talk to a real person, whether it's me or anybody else in the organization, they're almost surprised. And they're like, I wasn't expecting to talk to somebody. And I'm like, well, I am glad that we could do this today. So that keeps the job exciting too.
So I shared in your bio, you've done very, very well. I mean, from where you started to where you are today. So I get asked this question all the time. So I'm going to ask you, why do you love the manufacturing industry?
So for me anyway, I'm a mechanical gearhead. I have a mechanical engineering degree, but I've always been stronger on the making side than the designing side. And just that thrill of making something and achieving that success by knowing that when you do it right and you satisfy the customer, that you're securing your own future. And I'm a tech head. I've worked on projects that involved electronics to where I had to learn about silver migration and how it would screw up a circuit board. I've worked on gearboxes that weigh 18,000 pounds and transmit millions of inch-pounds of torque. I've worked on such a wide range of technology, and that learning aspect is just exciting. And when you think about, when I started off as a machinist, I worked on CNC machines that we still ran Mylar tape. And that's how you loaded the program into the machine. And now, you direct transmit it right into the control of the machine tool, and it's like just another network connection on your system. And your machine tool supplier is monitoring your machine real time and helping you debug it remotely, whether it's service or actually prove out of a program where you got a real complex part. It's just cool. Just the bottom line. Manufacturing is just the heart of our country, regardless of how we look at it. And I feel very strongly around lean manufacturing techniques from a competitiveness standpoint, because the more you streamline your processes and your business while still staying focused on value, you can be extremely successful in a highly competitive global market. I mean, even though RJ Link is North American centric, we compete globally. We compete against
Okay.
foreign competitors in the U.S., and our advantage is we're here and we can make the product exactly what the customer's looking for.
Okay, so if I'm a customer, end user or OEM, and I want to learn more about RJ Link or talk to Terry McCormick, who we confirmed is a real human, what would be the ways for me to learn more about RJ Link? You have a website, you're on social, do you do, when you do company tours?
So exactly. We rifle shot. We do a lot with LinkedIn, and so it's like the direct connections to the engineers and the buyers and the OEMs and the customers in the markets. And obviously, we do a lot with keyword searches with Google and the Google Analytics. We are now starting to post more YouTube video content, all surrounding educating the market and the customer on who RJ Link is. So we use Instagram and Twitter, but that's the first hook, because everybody today goes to the internet, and Google's the #1 search engine in the world, and YouTube is the #2. And so you got to have a presence out there. But once you kind of get that connection going, I really feel strongly that it's about reaching out and making a personal contact, whether it's through a phone call or a face-to-face visit, that they know they're dealing with a person. It's not a remote type interface, and that we're here to help them and help develop it as a partnership, really, versus the traditional customer-supplier competitive, oftentimes adversarial relationship where the buyer wants it at the lowest price and the seller wants to sell it at the highest price. We really want to sell the solution.
Awesome. Well, on behalf of Manufacturing Talk Radio and the Where's Willie Show, Mr. Terry McCormick, Vice President of Business Development for RJ Link, thank you so much for your time to be on the radio show. We really appreciate just getting to know all the great things that you and your team are doing, and really excited to see what you guys do in the months and years ahead.
Thank you, William. It's been a pleasure, and I wish you all the best on your show. And I'm very glad that you reached out to us. Thank you.